Welcome to episode 270 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak encouragement into the hearts of educators and get you informed and energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm talking with Dr. Monica Burns about ChatGPT and how artificial intelligence can simplify and accelerate your workload. Visit truthforteachers.com to get an easy-to-read, easy-to-share version of this podcast episode. In place of a sponsor message today, I'd like to make a request from you, especially if you're a longtime listener or supporter of my work. If you've never left a rating or review for Truth for Teachers on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, would you take just a few seconds and do that? You can click through right from your podcast player app, and there's also a link in the show notes. Every review helps boost visibility for Truth for Teachers. That means it's going to be easier for more educators to discover it. Leaving a review or even just clicking the star rating is one of the fastest, easiest ways to support the show. And your reviews mean so much to me. I read each and every one. So a huge thanks to everyone who has done this. You are so appreciated. And if you haven't yet, I would love if you did. Today's episode is a little bit different from most because I recorded it face-to-face with my guest. We were at the Future of Education Technology Conference, which is known as FETC. So because we were live together at the conference, this means that you will hear some background noise. But I hope that it will make you feel like you're part of the conference and you're feeling some of that excitement and energy that's in the air. You'll hear me talking with Dr. Monica Burns. She is an author, a speaker, and a former New York City public school teacher. Her passion is helping educators make technology integration meaningful and sustainable. And you know, that's my key word, right? Is finding a sustainable way to approach the way that we do school. Her website is classtechtips.com, and she helps educators promote deeper learning with technology. I've always found all of her tips to just be super practical, and I think you'll love this conversation. Monica and I are discussing what is exciting us both right now in the world of EdTech, and how the free artificial intelligence tool that everyone's talking about right now, ChatGPT, can help you reduce your workload, or as Monica sees it, accelerate your workload. So listen in and then go to truthforteachers.com/ChatGPT to get a free download of ideas and resources. So that's truthforteachers.com/ChatGPT. My team and 40-hour Teacher Workweek members have compiled some awesome ideas for how you can save time with this tool, and you can download that there. So we're going to dive into one particular tool, and that's the thing that I'm most excited about right now, which is the ChatGPT. This is an artificial intelligence tool for writing. It was just released for free to the public in November 2022. I see so much potential for it. I also have a lot of trepidation about how it's going to impact the online environment, what happens when ChatGPT gets into the hands of folks who have nefarious intent, and so on. But let's start by telling listeners about this tool. What is ChatGPT? How does it work? What are your thoughts on the potential uses and misuses of it in society at large? And then we'll get into the educational implications and how it can really help teachers.
Yeah, so ChatGPT is a really exciting, and we can say exciting about a lot of things, even if we're a little hesitant, right? Doesn't mean it's not exciting, right? But I think it's exciting to watch because we don't know how it's quite going to turn out just yet. So it's technology, artificial intelligence, essentially a chatbot, where instead of Googling a keyword to find an answer, you're putting in a full sentence, specific queries, really specific in some cases. One of my favorite examples to share is you could type this into ChatGPT. I want to cook lasagna for 2 people tonight. I want to make chicken parmesan for 4 people tomorrow. And I want to make eggplant parm for 6 the next day. Make a grocery list for me of everything I'm going to need.
Wow.
Right?
Like, oh my God, I never thought about
that. It's one of my favorite examples I've been telling people because it is just like, give me the recipe, but then also like I might Google the recipe for something and be happy with it once I, find what I need. But if you've ever tried to sort through all the things, right, it's going to automatically give you that full shopping list.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yes.
Right? So it's essentially giving you options to ask questions that are much more dynamic than you might in the past. So there is that level of I don't even know what to do, right? Or I don't know what I don't know. And, I will sometimes use examples from television shows when I'm doing a workshop like this, like this week, and I'll use like a cast list or famous characters or something, usually like Monica, Ross, and Rachel or something like that. And then I was on the plane coming here and I said, you know what, let me just try this out. And I typed in, make a list of the characters from the show Cheers. And it gave me 20 characters. And then I said, I don't want all Sam Malone, Diane, give me, and then I put in, just give me their first names. And it made a brand new list with me and just their first names. You have to think creatively about what is even possible. And that's an ongoing brain muscle journey for me. So coming back to how would you explain it? It's a chatbot where you can ask it to respond to a question that's essentially generating a text-based response. There's HTML options and table options too, but let's think most likely, right, a text-based response where you are getting specific answers that you can continue to follow up on to tweak to get kind of the right thing. So with those kind of lifestyle examples, right, of a recipe or something, you might also say, give me 10 ideas for fill in the blank, or I want to make a present, I want to figure out what present to get this person in my life and they like these 3 things. What can I do? So you can really go in a lot of different directions. And I think the best way to understand it is to play with it a little bit, kind of see what happens as you put in the kind of questions you might ask Google to get started, and then just start dialing up what's possible.
That's an interesting approach, because I think a lot of people, me included, have thought of it more as like, I would go to this if I needed text for something, if I need help writing something, composing an email maybe, or writing an article. But what you're suggesting is it's using it, it's like a more intelligent form of Google, giving you better search results and more detailed information that's personalized to what you want.
Yeah, and I think there's a scale there for sure of what's possible. And for me, that idea about the recipe, I didn't come up with that myself. My TikTok algorithm now, if you will, right, has moved away from silly prank videos or funny baby stuff, to a lot of this ChatGPT, did you know kind of videos. And so for me right now, especially with something that's new like this, my ears are open and just, I want to hear what people are trying. It makes me think of something else that I might want to try and do. And so that's where, for as much as just like you mentioned in your question, there's a level of hesitation or trepidation of where's this going to go? And I'm there, right? I'm there with those feelings too. But at the same time, I'm very curious at what's possible with this type of technology. And that's one of the reasons that I'm watching it so closely.
Yes. And I feel like with this kind of stuff, it's not going to be stopped. We have AI now to generate images. We have AI now to write text. It is here. It is not going to go away. It's like lamenting the invention of the smartphone because, the world has changed for better and for worse because of the smartphone. So I'm just looking at it not, all in, this is going to be fantastic. I am in no way that naive, but I also know that, there's a lot of needs for teachers right now. And I think this can be a really useful tool for them. So I'm trying to focus on what is here to get excited about.
Yeah. And I'm so glad at how you asked that question, because it's very much where my mindset is. The Atlantic had a really great article about essays and what this means for student writers, and that's been a lot of the conversation, and that's important. But I am not thinking about this in the recommendations I'm making as a student tool. At all.
Okay.
It doesn't mean I'm ignoring the potential for students or the pitfalls for students, because that's totally there. But I think it's really important for listeners to think about this as not a student tool. It's not designed for students. It's not COPA compliant, right? So all the things that we think about when we make choices for what tools are vetted for classroom use, this is not on that list yet, right? It's not ready and approved for student use in a consumer market standpoint. So with that in mind, it doesn't mean we're ignoring the fact that we might have an 8th grader who over the weekend writes their whole essay, then comes in on Monday and shows all their friends how to use this. And now we have to tackle that challenge, right? Just like in the past, you might have had a student bring in not the best current events article to talk about in the print newspaper, because I've had that experience too, right? There's always going to be disruptive things like that. This might be a little bit more more wild than we could have imagined. And so I say that all because, the teacher side of things, the optimizing workflow, working smarter, not harder is where my head is at. So is that I need to write a reminder email for a field trip and tell parents not to forget this, and I can put that in ChatGPT because I've tried that already, and that has worked really well to generate an email. Or am I not sure I wrote a sentence and I don't love how it sounds and I'm going to plug it into an email, but I don't love this. I might ask ChatGPT to rewrite this sentence in a more friendly way.
Nice.
Right? Or, the same way we use a thesaurus when we're stuck on a word, we can do that with a whole sentence to paraphrase or rewrite it. And I've even used it for resource searches. I made a list for a blog post of tools for video essays that I love. Am I forgetting any? And I put that in ChatGPT and it gave me a couple more ideas. I'm like, I don't know about that one. Or, I totally forgot about that one. And then I add it in and I write my own paragraph description, but for that idea generation. So if you are a teacher who makes videos for your flipped classroom and you just want a quicker way to make video descriptions before you plug it onto YouTube, that's one great thing. If you want to take something that you've written and simplify the vocabulary, maybe differentiate a prompt for a different group of students. So those creative teacher uses that are time saving, that really the word I come back to is not just optimize, but accelerate, really accelerate your workflow because you're working much smarter than harder. And there's some great things in there that I think are worthy of a teacher's consideration, especially if they're curious about it. They can try it out with their own workflow in mind.
Yeah, that's a good idea to just get in there, play around with it, see what it does, and then figure out what you need. I mean, that example of I'm trying to convey this very difficult concept to a parent about, how do I say this tactfully? And I don't think I'm nailing it. Yeah, run it through ChatGPT, see what it comes up with. And then you can prompt it and say, this wasn't, quite what I wanted. Make it more like this, or take out this part, or add something about this, and kind of tweak it. And from what I hear, people get the best results when they come in not expecting, exactly what they want up front, but to be prepared to go through it, a couple times and sort of niche down as to what they want.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of templates. I use canned responses a lot in my emails just to keep things. Sure, you want to schedule a meeting? Here's the response that I use, right? I've got all those in my email set up already as canned responses. And that doesn't feel robotic to me. I wrote that. Before I send it, I usually add a line or ask someone a question about something or make a comment about the weather, or personalize it. And I think I'm taking at least that same mindset into ChatGPT, that this is, again, that acceleration. It's not a replacement or a substitution. It's just giving me that start to get going, and then I can truly make it my own.
Yeah. And as a writer, I mean, I think you understand too that the blank page is the most daunting thing. Starting from nothing is so hard. Editing what someone else has written or what a chatbot has written is a much easier place to get started and can kind of get you thinking about what you want to do.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I've been thinking a lot about this as a writer, right? I write books. I have a lot of blog content. I've been doing this for a decade and I've written who knows how many words. And so I've been playing around with ChatGPT also with my blogger hat on. And just the past maybe end of December, beginning of January, I've put maybe 3 or 4 blog posts up. And at the very bottom, it has a little disclaimer that says I use ChatGPT for some inspiration to help me outline this or to help paragraphs. And I say I'm not saying it verbatim, but something I'm looking to, try this out. I want to see what it's like, and that's why I'm doing it here. But I had a conversation with someone recently around this, and I said, I use Grammarly all the time to run my blog posts through. And I've never thought to disclose that because it's a pretty useful tool that a lot of people use to check their spelling and to make sure their tenses match. And are we going to reach a point where this is so ubiquitous that I still feel very called to put that disclaimer as I'm trying this out on a couple blog posts to see if I like it, but am I going to put an asterisk every time I generate a title for a YouTube video? I don't know. I just don't know where that's all going to land. And again, that comes into the exciting doesn't mean that feeling excited about this doesn't mean I'm dismissive of the implications and the seriousness of all of this. I feel like I can hold both of those truths at the same time.
Yes. Yes, that it's very difficult to know, are we supposed to cite this? Is this a credit that we're having to, do we need to go through and credit this as a source for our writing? And I like that solution a lot, to just acknowledge, I use that, and it kind of normalizes it too. Another way that I saw a teacher using this was someone in the 40-hour teacher workweek program. She was talking about how she had tried using ChatGPT to rewrite a 10th grade reading passage at a 3rd grade level for a student who needed that accommodation. And another has been using ChatGPT to help write IEP goals. And she said that cut the workload for that task in half. Yeah. I know that trying to find level texts, if you teach 10th grade and you have a kid who's reading several years below level, trying to go through, we have Newsella, there's some other good tools out there, but this was just instantaneously. Yeah. She just copied and pasted the text in there, and voila, it was something that her student could read. And when I heard that, I was like, this is going to be massive for teachers.
Yeah, I think that's such a great example. I shared the idea of like a prompt or the task, right? Maybe simplifying it, or change the vocabulary, or bring this to this level or that level. So those are the kind of pieces that I think are really interesting and exciting, those kind of use cases, and it's something that, I'm thinking about kind of in those spaces of like, what is next, right? And what can a teacher do just to make the most use of their time and everyone's time.
Mm-hmm. So good. So I want to close out the show with a takeaway truth. What's something that you wish every teacher understood about ChatGPT or using artificial intelligence to simplify, or, as you say, accelerate their workload?
Yeah. So one thing I want everyone to think about is, what are they doing that is giving them like that hesitation, or that moment of pause? Like, what are they getting blocked on? And we talked about writer's block. It might be, I don't want to answer this email right now, or I don't know quite how to say this. So if you're mindful of those blocked moments, that's a time to try this out. Mm-hmm. Like if you're saying, I don't know exactly how to word this field trip reminder, or I don't love this sentence I'm about to send to my principal, I think it needs to be a little softer, but I don't want to add exclamation points, right? Like try that. So look for these organic moments and use that as your vehicle for exploring this new space.
Mm-hmm. So good. Okay, so Monica, tell people where they can learn more from you, because you have so much practical information from teachers, and I want them to be following your work. I think you do such an awesome job just getting down to the heart of things. You're not easily influenced by, this latest trend or this latest thing. You really are focused on authentic, purposeful teaching and learning. And I want more folks to follow you and be learning from you, because you are such a great leader in the ed tech industry.
Well, I appreciate that so much. And my blog is classtechtips.com. It celebrated 10 years last year. So the blog has a big search bar, and people can search for things and find things. So that's Class Tech Tips. And then my podcast, the Easy Ed Tech Podcast, I started in 2019. So coming up on 4 years of that already, where I talk to educators about workflow as well, thinking about what's new in technology, and of course, just how to make ed tech a little bit easier.
Don't forget to visit truthforteachers.com/ChatGPT to get a free download of ideas for using AI to simplify and accelerate your workload. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it.